Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have quite a bit to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Chargers. Hey, they won a game that wasn't a one-score game, and they made the playoffs, which is outstanding. Now they turn their attention to their crosstown rival, the LA Rams, which managed to give a gigantic lump of coal to the Denver Broncos, which was rather impressive. Unfortunately, speaking of teams that got coal, the Lakers got coal as they got steamrolled by the Dallas Mavericks, which was completely unacceptable. Also, the Clippers have kind of been surging as well. Can the Clippers pose a big threat to the Western Conference? Also, the Kings are still doing pretty decent as they're right on the coattails of the Vegas Golden Knights. Also, San Diego State football disappointed as they fell just short of winning the Hawaii Bowl, as USC and UCLA will look to do what they couldn't do, win their bowl game. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, Thursday wherever you are listening from or whenever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 117 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, the last one of the calendar year. And without any further delay, let us begin. But before we get on into the SoCal sports action, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform. You can follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. And for those that still use Facebook, follow them on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio, by going to the search bar and typing those said words. They also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go to the top of the page, you will see a Patreon link at the top, which starts at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, we have been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been by the fans and for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Losgrit, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. And with all that said and done, let us begin. So, shout out to Larry B. that is in the chat room. He says one more for the road, and I appreciate that. One more time for 2022, yes. And he says everything in SoCal sucks right now. For the most part, yes. So, one thing that didn't suck was the Rams and how they played on Christmas Day. So, believe it or not, fun fact, the Rams and Broncos were actually supposed to be one of the more highly anticipated games just because they did get the A crew on CBS. They got Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, which is absolutely astounding, which normally I think they'd probably get like the D crew, like Sparrow Ditas and Jay Feely. But unfortunately for listeners, and unfortunately for probably Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, they got this little dud. They got 2 4-10 teams, which are not going to the playoffs. So for the Rams, however, they laid down the wood against the Broncos. They beat them 51-14. It was so bad that Russell Wilson even got roasted by Patrick Starr on the Nickelodeon broadcast, which I won't play a clip for that because I feel that might be copyright, and I don't want us to risk getting sued or anything of that sort. So anyway, for the Rams, they picked off Russell Wilson 3 times, and they had 4 interceptions altogether, and one of which was a pick 6, which was completely funny. That was by Brett Rippon, by the way. It wasn't by Russell Wilson. It would have been funny if Russell Wilson threw the pick 6, but Russell Wilson did get picked off by his former teammate Bobby Wagner, and that was when Patrick Starr roasted Russell Wilson. So, yeah, it's been rather a forgettable year for both the Broncos and the Rams, but at least the Broncos can hang their hat on getting a higher draft pick. Oh, wait. As for the Rams, they can hang their hat on winning on Christmas Day and Baker Mayfield getting the MVP award, the Nickelodeon Valuable Player. Because in case you all didn't know, the Rams and Broncos were playing on Nickelodeon as well as CBS. I watched the CBS version just because, well, I'm so used to seeing Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, as well as just watching football or NFL on Sundays. So that was long story short, Cam Akers turned into Marshawn Lynch. Tyler Higbee was mini Rob Gronkowski. The Rams defense didn't skip a beat. And it was so bad for the Broncos and so good for the Rams that the Rams did not even punt once. Riley Dixon pretty much had the day off. The only thing he had to do was hold down the kicks on the field goals and extra points. So other than that, Riley Dixon had pretty much an easy day at the office. It was so bad for the Broncos that Brett Rippon, their backup quarterback, was arguing with the offensive linemen, and he was basically saying, he was calling them out, saying, don't let Russ get sacked in that. Now, I kind of wanted to give him the dum-dum of the week, but it's like, I understand his frustration, I understand him sticking up for his mentor, but you just can't do that. Like, the offensive linemen don't get a whole lot of love anyway, so the fact that you're straight up going up to them face-to-face, and these are some big dudes, by the way, is just disappointing, man. So overall, it was a long day at the office for the Broncos, but for the Rams, it was quite enjoyable. And for those that took the Rams plus 2.5, well, I hope you are getting paid out handsomely and then some. So for the Rams, good job on that win. It doesn't really mean anything. Well, actually it does. It means that the Detroit Lions will now have a lower draft pick, just because the Rams traded their first-round draft pick for this upcoming draft to the Lions in the Matt Stafford Jared Goff trade. So sorry, Lions. So for the Rams, they close out, or they have 2 more games remaining, and their next game is going to be against the Chargers, which is perfect segue to go into them next. So the Chargers, they basically laid down the wood against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, it started off a little slow. They didn't beat them by an exponential huge margin, but for me, this was probably the most refreshing sight to see if you're a Chargers fan, especially for me, just because every single game, except for week 4 where they played the Texans and won by 10, has been a one-score game. This time around, the Chargers were straight up dominant. They stopped Nick Foles. They picked him off 3 times. They sacked him 7 times. And they really limited the Colts' offense overall. Granted, the Colts have had a merry-go-round in terms of quarterbacks. They also were without Jonathan Taylor, who was having such a dud year after an explosive year last year. And then everything just went against them. Like, nothing just went their way. The only negative that I have for the Chargers is that Derwin James got ejected after a helmet-to-helmet hit, which when you look at it, it wasn't overly bad, but still, he led it with the crown of his helmet. It was clear helmet to helmet as he hit the chin of the receiver of the Colts, which unfortunately he has a concussion. And in addition to getting ejected, Derwin James also is in concussion protocol, and now he might be in danger of missing this Sunday's game against the Rams. So, but overall, outside of that little mishap, and also another mishap that the Chargers had was that they allowed Justin Herbert to basically get sacked, and he also lost a fumble, and also he threw a pick. So it wasn't Justin Herbert's best game, as this was the second straight game he did not have a touchdown pass. He almost had a touchdown pass on this amazing trick play. Now, I've been very critical on Joe Lombardi. I think he is one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. I think he's right up there with Matt Canada of the Steelers and Byron Leftwich of the Buccaneers. But I think Joe Lombardi is horrible when it comes to play calling. I even tweeted out in frustration that the Chargers got all the way down to the red zone twice, only to come away with 3 points on each of those red zone drives. And it's frustrating just because the Chargers have such good potential. They have Mike Williams, Gerald Everett, who didn't see any catches, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, who they used who eventually got 2 touchdown runs. They also have Joshua Kelly, who I think has been quite the pleasant surprise. I've been so critical on Joshua Kelly. I know he's had his fumble issues, but I really think he might have his swagger back. Now, he still has a long way to go just because he's still in his young stages of his NFL career. But if Kelly continues to not fumble the ball, then I will eat a lot of crow, and I will gladly take back all the things about him going back to UCLA or fumbling back to UCLA. So either way, the Chargers just had such a great win, and this was their biggest win margin this season. The 17-point win that they've had is the most they've won by this year. The previous one was by 10 against the Houston Texans. So overall, it was just a better sight to see for Chargers fans. And in winning that game, along with the Jaguars beating the Jets, the Jaguars beating the Jets last Thursday, the Bengals beating the Patriots last Saturday, and the Steelers beating the Raiders last Saturday, the Chargers have punched their ticket into the playoffs, which is amazing. And I had my doubts for the Chargers. I honestly thought they weren't going to keep it together. I thought it was pretty much over when they lost to the Raiders. But then they came out with a strong effort against the Dolphins, a solid, strong effort against the Titans, and then this amazing effort against the Colts, which, again, it's not surprising that they beat the Colts. They were due for a multiple-score win, and a dominant one at that. Again, the Colts were starting Nick Foles, which they were starting Matt Ryan, and then Sam Ehlinger, and then eventually Nick Foles. And I even was telling that to my brother that the Colts have been a complete quarterback carousel, and for good reason as well. So they have not been relevant since the Andrew Luck days. I'm sorry, but the Colts have just not had their relevancy. I mean, they did have that one year when Phillip Rivers, the former Charger, went to the Colts, but ever since then, it's just been complete disastrous all over the place in terms of quarterback. So, but I'm not here to talk about the Colts. I'm here to talk about the Chargers. So, as I just mentioned, the Chargers play at home against the Rams this Sunday, which unfortunately it did get flexed out of Sunday Night Football. Steelers-Ravens got flexed into Sunday night, which is not surprising. I mean, it's understandable that the Rams-Chargers has no real meaning to either team just because the Chargers got their ticket into the playoffs. And then, honestly, the Chargers have their ticket in, and then the Rams don't have their ticket in. So the Rams are eliminated. So it has no meaning whatsoever to be on Sunday Night Football. I mean, for ratings in terms of Los Angeles, maybe, but no one wants to see that little matchup that has no meaning. I mean, I understand for the Ravens-Steelers, it has some meaning just because, well, the Ravens have clinched a playoff spot, but they could win the AFC North, and then the Steelers are fighting for their playoff lives. I honestly would have preferred to see Miami, New England in the primetime slot, if not Carolina, Tampa Bay, but I guess Steelers Ravens is Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers have been relegated to CBS, which, surprisingly enough, they actually will have the honor of their game being called by the one, the only Sparrowditas, which is a first for the Chargers this season. They have not gotten Sparrowditas in terms of their play-by-play, and I guess Jay Feely as well, but Sparrowditas. The Chargers are undefeated when Sparrowditas calls their game in the Justin Herbert era. They're a whopping 2-0, with their wins coming against the Broncos back in Herbert's rookie year, and then last year against Washington, which had no name, by the way. So as for Rams-Chargers this weekend, this is going to be a fun game right here. I mean, it has no meaning in terms of playoff value, but I still think it's going to be a close and intense game. Granted, the Rams are pretty much shut down Aaron Donald. I imagine that what's-their-face is basically Cooper Kupp's not going to return just because Sean McVay said that there's no scenario that he could return to. So, it's so tough to really predict Rams-Chargers just because it's a pride game for the Rams, and it's basically an iron sharpens iron game for the Chargers. And one good thing that did happen for the Chargers as of 20 minutes prior to the show going live was that they got back Joey Bosa. Now, I imagine Joey Bosa is going to be on a limited snap count just because, well, for starters, he just came back from I think he had core muscle surgery. I thought it was a groin injury, but then he also had core muscle surgery, which really hurt, but he is back. He has been reinstated. He has been designated to return from IR today, which I think is amazing. And Adam Karnick actually, first of all, shout out to Larry B in the chat room, as well as Mike Pat. He says, have a great show, Teran. And Adam Karnick in the chat room pops in and says, hello, Teran. Chargers going to make a deep playoff run? Now, that's going to depend on who they draw in the first round, or in the wild card round. If they draw Jacksonville, I think they have a good shot. If they draw Cincinnati, I give them a solid chance just because, well, with having Joey Bosa back, as well as Khalil Mack still doing his thing, and I can see Derwin James getting back before playoff time just because concussions probably take a while to get back into. I think the Chargers have a solid shot against the Bengals, though covering Jamar Chase is going to be a difficult task. But Michael Davis has filled in greatly ever since J.C. Jackson had that gruesome injury. And then if the Chargers draw Kansas City, then it's not really going to be the best matchup, just because the Chargers play the Chiefs very close, but in reality, they just don't have that it factor against them. I just don't think that they're not going to, possibly... They just have no answer for Patrick Mahomes. And obviously Travis Kelce is going to be a problem. He has been the Chargers slayer. And then all those other receivers are coming back, or have already returned, just because the second go-around in Week 11, the Chiefs didn't have their receiver core. And then obviously what has been a big problem for the Chargers is their run defense with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. So if the Chargers get the 6 or 5 seed, and they don't have to draw the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round, then I think they can get to at least the divisional round. I don't know how deep they could truly go. I just know that I don't think they can handle Buffalo at Buffalo, and then I just don't see the scenario of how they'll be able to beat the Chiefs. Unless, of course, they pull a Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 2020, or 2019-2020, and then they manage to figure it out against the Chiefs then. But overall, to answer Adam's question, hopefully, I'm hopeful. Right now, I'm just focused on this week where the Chargers play the Rams, and I'm going to take the Chargers. I'm obviously going to take the Chargers to win 28-24. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be decided on the final drive. I think 28 points sounds reasonable for the Chargers. I mean, it's going to have to be a better offensive output from Justin Herbert. Now, granted, this game has no meaning for the Chargers. I mean, if they lose, then so be it. But the Chargers have a 97% chance of being the 5 or 6 seed. I imagine if the Dolphins lose, I imagine if the Chargers win, they can't finish anywhere below 6th. But if the Dolphins win out and the Chargers lose out, then Dolphins will jump the Chargers. You also got to remember that the Chargers have the head-to-head over the Dolphins just because the two played one another and the Chargers came out on top. Now, I'm not sure about the head-to-head scenario with the Patriots, just because they're still in the playoff hunt, and I imagine that they're going to want to bring it. They're going to want to go all out against the Dolphins and Bills in their last two games, but I don't see the Patriots beating the Bills. In terms of the conference record between the Chargers and the Patriots are 5-5 and the Chargers are 7-4. So I imagine and then the Dolphins are 6-4. So I imagine that if the Dolphins lose, and I think the Chargers should be at no worse the 6th seed. And then if for some odd reason the Chargers and Ravens are tied with one another, then it's probably going to boil down to conference record, with the Ravens still having the Steelers and Bengals, while the Chargers have the Rams and Broncos, with one of those teams not even being in the AFC. So overall, the Chargers should be in good shape to at least finish 6th. If they could get 5th, that's awesome, just because they could draw the Jags or Titans in the first round. The Titans would definitely not be a bad matchup with Ryan Tannehill out for the remainder of the year. The Jags are a little bit worrying just because they're playing so great as of late, but here's the thing. The Chargers, I think, have a better game plan for the Jags just because they were just banged up all around. No Keenan Allen, no J.C. Jackson. Justin Herbert was nowhere near 100%. They lost Bosa in the first quarter. It was just a nightmare overall in Week 3. And I think the Chargers are way better than they were in Week 3. So that's pretty much the Chargers playoff scenario. But as of this week, I have them winning 28-24 over the Rams. It's nothing personal for the Rams. I just think that the Chargers they're just playing on a whole better level, and I could probably give the Rams a lower score than 21, but I feel Sean McVay is going to exploit the Chargers' weaknesses, just because Sean McVay loves to play chess and not checkers, and this is going to be the matchup between I would say that Brandon Staley was a part of the Sean McVay coaching tree, but he was first eventually a part of Vic Fangio's coaching tree, then Shanahan's coaching tree, Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree, then Sean McVay's coaching tree, and now he's his own tree. Own tree branch, at least. But overall, I think it's safe to say the Chargers will win by 4. I think the Rams have nothing to lose, and then obviously Sebastian Joseph Day is facing his former team, so we'll see what happens with the Rams. But Baker Mayfield will be under center, and Baker has not beaten the Chargers in his NFL career, so that is also something to factor in. But that's just superstition right there. But it should be a fun game. I think that game could be more entertaining than its flex out should be. And then it would be quite funny if that game was more dramatic or a much better game than the Ravens-Steelers. I'm just saying. All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. All right, we got to get into the college football aspect sort of thing. San Diego State really disappointed me. This team really does not know what it means to play a full 4 quarters, and my goodness. San Diego State lost their bowl game 25-23. It sounds like a volleyball score. Anyway, San Diego State lost their bowl game to Middle Tennessee 25-23 in the Hawaii Bowl. I was so disappointed. It's like, how do you lose the game? How do you lose that game to Middle Tennessee? San Diego State was like a 2-point favorite, and they wound up laying an egg. And then I didn't really get to see this game just because I was with family and I was watching NFL. But I did see that San Diego State turned the ball over not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but a whopping 5 times in the game. 5 times. 5 times. You can't win a football game when you're turning the ball over 5 times. And poor Jalen Maiden, the dude fumbled one time in the game and he had 3 interceptions. It's like, I don't know how good or bad San Diego State's O-line is, but that dude let him out to dry, or let him out to die for that matter. And the poor dude, he basically had probably the worst game of his career. And I hope he doesn't get benched, just because I don't want San Diego State to go through another merry-go-round, which it's like, So I am overall disappointed, and it's like, San Diego State's offense has been so inept. Like, in this game against Middle Tennessee, they basically had Jack Browning scoring all the points in the second half. It was so disappointing. And good for Jack Browning. I'm happy that he's been such a little bit of a bright spot for the Aztecs this year, just because he's been such a great kicker, and it makes me happy. But it's like, dude, you can't just bank on field goals to win you the game all by yourself. And that's what San Diego State did. They had one field goal in the third quarter, two in the second, and then that field goal was not enough, just because Middle Tennessee got the go-ahead field goal with about 2 minutes and change remaining. And again, Jalen Mayden, despite his 3 interceptions, he did have a solid game. He had 2 tutties and 309 passing yards, which isn't bad. Their only problem is that San Diego State's run game was practically non-existent, as their leading rusher was Garrett Fountain, who had a whopping 27 yards off 1 carry. So I've been basically screaming this, is that San Diego State needs to have a better offensive diet. It's like, it really just can't be a full run game or a majority of the passing game. But I understand maybe that San Diego State just went against the run game just because they didn't want to burn off time. But you still have to have that balance in between. So overall for San Diego State, they end their season at 7-6, which, the fans were so frustrated in terms of, the San Diego State fans were so frustrated in terms of San Diego State losing to Middle Tennessee. They basically want Brady Hoke out of there. And I even said Rocky Long did not step down for this, and I miss Rocky Long. Like, now he's I think he's one of the coordinators. I think he's defensive coordinator for Syracuse. And guess who's having a much better season than San Diego State? Syracuse to a T. But Brady Hoke, I don't know if it's time for him to be fired. I mean, look at what USC did with Clay Helton. They finally got rid of him, but do they really need to fire Brady Hoke? Perhaps. I'm not entirely certain. I think depending on what his contract looks like and depending on how he's been reevaluated is the dependent on if Brady Hoke still stays at San Diego State. Now, I don't know who they're gonna hire in place of him, but one thing's for certain, I hope it's not Urban Meyer. Okay, but that aside, San Diego State, I hope you are able to figure this whole thing out, just because you can't lose to Middle Tennessee like that. That's pretty embarrassing. And actually, San Diego State was a 7-point favorite, not 2-point favorite, so I guess the line changed. Like, when I previewed San Diego State, they were only a 2-point favorite, but I guess the line went up to 7. So, yeah, San Diego State, you disappointed in the Hawaii Bowl. Like, they should have had to walk. I would say they should have to walk back to California from Hawaii, but there is no way they could walk back, just because, unless they could walk on water. Then, if that's the case, then maybe San Diego State has something we don't know. As we welcome Cale Henderson into this live Spreaker chat room, he says, "What's up, Teran?" Just discussing some San Diego State football, which was a complete wash. They lost to Middle Tennessee, but yeah, they left Jalen Mayden out to die, as they basically had no O-line, and they basically gave Jalen Mayden the Justin Herbert treatment. Have the O-line or the opposing team's defense just pretty much just pick him off early and often, and quite literally. Kale adds, Chargers are a threat. Unfortunately, they made the playoffs and likely won't hire Sean Payton now. Probably not. I mean, it would be interesting if they basically either demoted Staley or they gave him the boot, but Yeah, it's looking like Sean Payton won't be going to the Chargers. I mean, it's the most appetizing and most desirable position, but something that Colin Cowherd brought up one time is that the Chargers are insanely cheap, and they don't like to go after the big-time names, and it's saddening just because they had a chance at Brian Daboll, and he went to the Giants, and instead of going after some of these other desirable names, they went after Staley, which wasn't a bad thing. I mean, in his 2 years, well, in the 2 years that Staley has been head coach, the Chargers have at least had a winning record. The problem is that last year, Staley didn't lead him to the playoffs. And I totally agree, Cale. Sean Payton with Herbert would be nuts, and I would totally be down for Sean Payton. And I'm not saying that Staley hasn't done a great job. I just would prefer having a big-time name like Sean Payton, who has won a Super Bowl, who has worked with the great Drew Brees, and who has had that playoff experience. I think the problem for Brandon Staley is that he just lacks that playoff experience. Yes, he was a part of the Rams coaching tree, or the Rams playoff experience when they had one of the best defenses, and he was also part of the Broncos coaching tree with Vic Fangio, and he was part of Shanahan's coaching tree. But I would totally take Sean Payton or Brian Daboll in a heartbeat, because you saw what Brian Daboll did for Josh Allen. You saw what Sean Payton did for the Saints until he stepped down. So I would hope Sean Payton wants to be, Sean Payton takes the Chargers job. I mean, the Broncos have a void at their head coach after they fired Nathaniel Hackett. The Colts still have Jeff Saturday as their head coach. And the Saints, contrary to popular belief, they're still going to keep Dennis Allen and not go after Sean Payton. And yeah, that would be something, Cale. He says, imagine Payton brings 2 teams to their first Super Bowl. That would be amazing. I would take Sean Payton in a heartbeat. I would totally take Sean Payton, no questions asked. I'd say you've got the job, and I don't think I would demote. I'd fire Staley. I'd probably demote him to like a coordinator position, but it's tough to like let go of a coach that's actually done some good. I mean, it could have been worse. I mean, Anthony Lynn could still have been head coach and whatnot, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. All right, so all right. Back to the college football topic. So UCLA plays Pitt tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I'm just going to say it right now. If UCLA finds some way to lose to Pitt, I'm going to rip UCLA. And one more comment from Kaylee says, he did it for the Saints. Imagine he does it for the Chargers too. It'd be legendary. Yeah, it would be legendary. But moving on to UCLA football. If UCLA finds some way to lose to Pitt, I'm going to be dissatisfied. They are an 8-point favorite, according to ESPN. There's no way they lose to Pitt. Pitt is not playing Keaton Slovis. This is a Pitt team that has been up and down all around. So UCLA has to win this one by more than one score. They should win by more than one score. I have UCLA winning 38 to... Let me do my math real quick. 38 to 17. That sounds about right. So UCLA won 38-17. I have them at least winning by 21. If UCLA does not win by more than 8 points, I will be dissatisfied. And if they somehow lose, I'm going to roast them like a roast beast. There's no way UCLA, with all that talent, having won 9 games, which could be the first 10-win UCLA football team since I think 2014, to cross that threshold, and to do it with Chip Kelly. Like, that dude got laughed out of the NFL, and now he is back not reimbursing, but rejuvenating UCLA football, which is downright impressive. And if for some odd reason UCLA finds a way to chicken their way out of this bowl, like they did last year when NC State visited them, or if they find some odd reason to basically cancel this bowl, they're going to be the dum-dum of the week next week. But for right now, I got UCLA winning this one big time. Please, UCLA, don't play down in your competition. All right, so That's basically UCLA in a nutshell. UCLA football in a nutshell right there. Going over to USC, so USC Tulane, that's going to be on this upcoming Monday, which it's going to be on at 10 a.m., so thanks, Cotton Bowl. Fun fact, I actually went to the Cotton Bowl this past spring with my brother when I visited him in Dallas, Texas. So it was a nice little stadium. I didn't go inside the stadium. I just went on the outside, and it's a great facility, by the way. So over to USC Tulane. So good news for USC is that Caleb Williams is playing. The bad news is I don't think Travis Dye is playing. I don't think What's-His-Face is playing. The big-time receiver dude, Jordan Addison, blanking on his name. So for Caleb Williams, Mr. Heisman winner, I could see him leading USC to the victory. Tulane obviously has been such a great treat this year, such a great story for them, a great turnaround as well. So for Tulane, this one's going to be tough to predict. I don't even know how USC's defense is going to keep up with that said offense. I mean, Tulane has just been so much vastly improved, and USC still probably coming off of a lull against Utah, just because their only two losses were against the Utes. So for USC, I have them winning 35-31. I think that's reasonable. I mean, I don't want them to win by in high scoring fashion, but I think that's about as respectable as it gets. Just because Tulane, they have been vastly improved this season. They even beat Cincinnati on the road for the first time in, I think, 9 or 10 years. And they even avenged their lone loss, one of their two losses of the season, to UCF, beating them in the AAC championship, which was downright impressive. And they basically rose from the bottom up to the top, which was darn impressive. And overall, Tulane, I don't want to see them lose, but the USC has to end this season on a high now. Please, USC, please find some way to end this season on a positive note. And also Tulane lost early in the season to Southern Miss, but that loss does not really mean anything at this point. And they also beat Kansas State as well, which won the Big 12. But all that matters this time is USC Tulane, and I've got USC beating them 35-31, and I have Caleb Williams throwing for at least 3 touchdowns. Hopefully he doesn't have any interceptions. He should hopefully be better by the time he takes the field again. I mean, he's had he'll have practically a month off when it came to not playing football. So I hope he's able to be near full strength. He is going to play, and he has confirmed that he is playing. It all depends on some of the other guys, some of the other players that are willing to play and bring home the Cotton Bowl to SC. So that's pretty much that for USC as well as UCLA in college football. That's it for college football in general. And we'll jump to the NBA, and let's just say the Lakers have been very forgettable. I saw a little bit of the Lakers play on Christmas Day, and at first it looked like they were going to give Laker fans something to cheer for. And then the second half came, and the Lakers straight up laid a big fat goose egg, which was unacceptable. The Lakers were up at halftime. I think they were up by like 10 or so at halftime. 10, maybe 7 at halftime. And no, they weren't up at halftime. They're actually tied with the Hornets. Oh no, that's the Hornets. I'm sorry. They were up by a good substantial margin, and yes, they were up by 11 at halftime against the Mavericks. And I was thinking, all right, it's all looking good for the Lakers. They're gonna give something to me and my brother to cheer about. Unfortunately, the third quarter came, and that was pretty much where it all went it all went downhill from there, as the Mavericks put up 51 points in the third quarter. 51 points. 5-1. 50. They put up a 50-burger in the third quarter. So that 11-point lead that the Lakers had in the going into the third quarter it eventually evaporated as the Lakers got outscored by 30 in that third quarter, and they were trailing by 19, and that was pretty much that. Like, the Lakers just could not keep up with the Mavericks. And I had a feeling the Lakers were going to lose just because, believe it or not, the Dallas Mavericks scheduled their statue and veil of Dirk Nowitzki the same day on Christmas Day when they played the Lakers. And I'm like, guys, really? So it was a rough go for the Lakers in the second half. The good news is I guess there's some good news for the Lakers is that the Lakers had another strong game from LeBron. He even went 12 for 12 from the free throw line. I never would have guessed that just because LeBron has been horrible from the free throw line this season. It was eventually worse for the Lakers as they lost to the Charlotte Hornets the game 2 days prior as they lost 134 to 130, and that's basically rock bottom right there. And I'll give this up to Larry just because he called the Lakers losing to the Hornets. But the Hornets are one of the worst teams in the NBA, and the Lakers lost to them at the Crypt, which is just frustrating, dude. Like, it's so frustrating for the Lakers. It's frustrating to be a Lakers fan. Fortunately for them, they bounced back on Tuesday when they beat the Orlando Magic 129 to 110. One of my followers is a big-time Orlando Magic fan, but he hates LeBron and the Lakers to a fiery passion, and he was not happy, to say the least. Unfortunately for the Lakers, that was the first of a back-to-back as they lost the second of a back-to-back yesterday against the Miami Heat, 112 to 98, which that was kind of expected to happen. I mean, it's the second of a back-to-back. The Lakers were not going to get any breaks. Granted, they played in the same state, but against a Miami Heat team that was hungry for a win, a big-time win at that, well, there was no hope for the Lakers. So the Lakers return to action on Friday when they head down to the ATL to take on the Atlanta Hawks. And then on Monday, the start of the new calendar, they head down to Charlotte to take on the Hornets. And then that's pretty much that for their mini road trip. I guess it isn't really a Grammy road trip just because the Grammys have been moved. But back in the day, the Lakers would call their December road trip the Grammy road trip, but I digress. So next Wednesday, the Lakers play the Miami Heat at the Crypto.com Arena on national television, mind you. And then on Friday, the Lakers welcome the Atlanta Hawks, so they'll get some familiar foes. And I guess it's safe. I guess they play the Sacramento Kings the day after. So yeah, it's going to be a busy first week of January for Los Lakers, but hopefully they can get it together here. They're still dead last in their division, and remember when I said that they actually had hope of possibly making it into the play-in round? Well, it's starting to dwindle down, but there's still plenty of season left, but Laker fans should not really get their hopes up, especially with how everyone else is doing, especially the Kings. Like, the Kings have been the biggest surprise for the NBA this season. So overall for the Lakers, it's only a matter of time before LeBron surpasses Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and if he does, then that would be awesome. I mean, he still wants to play, and he still wants to win a championship, but I don't know if the dude just has it. I mean, the guy doesn't really have the pieces around him. Like, Anthony Davis is out, but he might come back soon. I don't know how soon, but he said that he'll be back in about maybe 7 to 10 days, or reevaluate in 7 to 10 days, but hopefully he is back sooner rather than later. And then most of their team just doesn't have that. Isn't like young. It's mostly like old guys, and then obviously Russell Westbrook is just a complete nightmare. So I mean, Russell Westbrook actually has had his moments. I mean, he's had triple doubles here and there, and he's had good scoring outputs, but it's just been complete dog doo for the most part. If you're the Lakers, oh boy. All right, so that's that for the Lakers. Jumping over to the Clippers, who actually are leading the division. Despite them leading the division, they are the 4 seed, which, oof, the 4 seed, yikes. The Clippers have been rather impressive. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a big yikes, but I thought Phoenix was supposed to be good, and what happened at Golden State? Anyway, the Clippers, they've had some decent... their past 2 games have had some decent wins. This past Tuesday, they beat the Toronto Raptors 124-113, and the day before, they beat the Detroit Pistons 142-131 in overtime. That was actually quite the game for the Clippers, as I think they were down like 12 or so. They were down by double digits with about 3 minutes remaining, and then they went on this big run. They got the go-ahead game-tying basket from Terrence Mann, and then they just eventually overwhelmed Detroit in overtime. It does feel a little weird seeing that they needed overtime to beat the Pistons, but still an impressive victory. And there was this one reporter who the Clippers kind of called out or ratioed. He said, Clippers are down double digits with about 3 minutes remaining. Tough loss for the Clippers. And then they just put the double eyes looking emojis. And then I basically replied and said, never count out the Clips. So on Friday, however, they lost a tough one to the Philadelphia 76ers, 119-114. I saw that they were pretty much dominating for the most part, and then the Sixers just came alive in the second half. It kind of reminded me of the Lakers Mavericks game, where the Mavericks came alive in the second half, and it's like, oh boy. And I guess that might have been Doc Rivers' revenge game, but it's like, come on. Come on, Clips. You could do better than that. And it's even worse just because Joel Embiid had 44 points, which is like big oof right there. So the Clippers are back in action as they continue their little road trip as they head down to Beantown to take on the Celtics. The Clippers dominated the Celtics the first meeting, so hopefully they could do it again. I mean, I personally want to see them beat the Celtics, but I'm a Lakers fan. I mean, there's no easy way around of either rooting for the Clippers or for the Celtics if and when those two meet. Then on Saturday, the Clippers head down to Indiana to take on the Pacers, and then on Monday they welcome the Miami Heat, and then they have another 2-game road trip next Thursday and Friday as they head down to Denver to take on the Nuggets, and then they head down to Minnesota to take on, or the Twin Cities to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves next Friday. So, overall for the Clippers, I hope they're able to keep up this good momentum. They're one of the bright spots for Southern California sports, as Larry pointed this out early in my intro. He says, everything in SoCal sucks right now, LOL. He even said the Lakers are so bad, it's sad, and he says, at least we have the Kings, which he's referring to the LA Kings, not the Sacramento Kings. So, overall, for the Clippers, I think it's good to see them having so much success, especially with how last year ended. And we'll see if they can keep up this momentum going into the rest of the season. So that's that for the Clippers right there, and that's pretty much that for the NBA. I guess there's not too much to jump into when it comes to NCAA men's basketball, as it looks everyone pretty much had Christmas off, and yeah, there wasn't really too much to talk about. I mean, the USC and UCLA are both hot as of late, which is quite nice. But can they keep their hot streaks going? As UCLA plays Washington State on Friday, UCLA's going to probably win that one. USC plays at Washington on Friday as well. As I give USC a decent chance to win that one, but I think Washington's vastly improved. So we'll see what the Trojans have in store. Everyone's saying that ESPN's prediction meter thinks that Washington's going to win. I don't know about that one. And then Big West Conference play starts I think today, if not tomorrow, or sometime this week, as Long Beach State, UC Santa Barbara, all those UC Irvine, all those teams from Southern California are going to look to try to become the best in the Big West. Long Beach State won the regular season conference title last year, and they fell short to Cal State Fullerton. So overall for Long Beach State, they're not having a bad year, but they're probably going to have to step it up come NCAA, or not NCAA, Big West Conference play. So moving on from NCAA men's hoops, yes, that was the briefest segment of NCAA men's basketball. We have the NHL to discuss, and Kale, I hope you're not listening, and because I've got some not so great news. The Kings actually managed to beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights 4-2 on Tuesday, and that was quite the surprising feat. And the Ducks were able to do so in a shootout yesterday, beat the Golden Knights. So, oops, sorry, Golden Knights. We don't really get to see the Ducks beat the Golden Knights all that often. So for them to do it last night was quite impressive. But back to the Kings. The Kings beat the Golden Knights 4-2 on Tuesday. They did, however, lose to the Arizona Coyotes in a shootout 2-1. But I guess that's the unpredictability and parity of hockey this year, as the Kings are still 4 games back of the Golden Knights. So the good old Kings are keeping Southern California relevant, as they're one of few teams that are keeping the Southern California relevant. So the Kings hit the road to the Rocky Mountains to take on the Colorado Avalanche tonight at 6 p.m. And then starting the new year, they have the Dallas Stars on Tuesday on national television. They play on ESPN. That's nice. And then next Thursday, they welcome the Boston Bruins. And then next Saturday, the Kings head up to Sin City to take on the Las Vegas Golden Knights, which we'll see how that one happens in Las Vegas. As for the Ducks, well, actually, no. Before I move on from the Kings, like I said, they're still second in the Pacific Division, and I imagine the Golden Knights are still, they're still dominating the Western Conference, but the Kings they're not too far back from the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights, so I gotta give a lot of credit to the Kings. They've really turned it around, and they could possibly pose a threat to the Western Conference. And like I said in the chat room of the Neutral Zone when Adam Karnick went live on Tuesday, the Kings are coming. The Kings are coming. Pause. Anyway, so yeah, the Kings they're on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no better feeling if you're a Kings fan. As for the Ducks, they have had some mixed results. On Wednesday, they beat the Golden Knights, or yesterday they beat the Golden Knights in a shootout 3-2. Friday, however, they lost to the Calgary Flames in overtime 3-2. So they have been able to get points. It's just that they're still in dead last in their division, and it's just been sickening to watch. So the Ducks return to action tomorrow, being Friday, when they play the Nashville Predators at 2 p.m. And then starting the new calendar year, they play the Philadelphia Flyers on Monday at 7 p.m. Then they welcome the Dallas Stars to the Honda Center on Wednesday. And then next Friday is the Trail of Tears game between the Sharks and the Ducks. And the reason why I say that is because the Sharks and the Ducks are a few of the worst teams in the NHL. They're the 2 worst teams in their division, and probably the 2 worst teams in the conference. As I will say this about the Ducks, they're no longer the worst team in the league, and they're not the second worst team in the league. They're actually the 3rd worst team in the league, as the Columbus Blue Jackets have surpassed them in terms of worst team in the league, second worst team in the league. The Chicago Blackhawks are still the said worst team in the league, and if you follow Chicago Blackhawks, then you could imagine how frustrating it is to be a Blackhawks fan. But it is what it is. I also should give a shout out to what's his face, Trevor Zegras, who became the 3rd fastest player to reach 100 points in NHL history. And I'm just going to say Trevor Zegras is the biggest positive of the Ducks this season, and the biggest bright spot for the Ducks as of right now. It's just been a complete atrocity for the Ducks this season, and having Trevor Zegras makes me happy, and I hope he stays a Duck forever. Hopefully he doesn't go into that free agent market and just turn his back on the Ducks and go ring hunting. But if it does come down to that, then I do wish him the best, and But I just hope that the Ducks are able to just build around Trevor Zegras. And it's just so frustrating, honestly. All right, so that's going to basically do it for the NHL portion of the show, and that's basically going to do it for all the topics. I'm actually going to take one little quick commercial break, and when we come back, I have the Dum Dum of the Week award for the last time in 2022, and I have some of Southern California's best sports moments this year. So you're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Do you love college football? And do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college, and the CCCAA, and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows, such as the Buffalo Huddle with the one, the only Patty Bax. She does an outstanding job breaking down all things Buffalo sports. And how could you not like that show? Like, if you haven't listened to that show, please do. Also, check out 3 and Out College Edition with myself and Larry B. on Saturday at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We're definitely going to be going live unless something pops up. But now we got to get into the Dum Dum of the Week. So the Dum Dum of the Week is an award I like to give out to when it comes to someone or something that says something dumb. So basically no one is safe from this award. Anyone can get this award. No one is safe, but I have my limitations on who I should give Dum Dum of the Week out to. But one thing I should give Dum Dum of the Week out to is technology. I almost couldn't get my speaker to hook up with my phone, but I was able to do so just because reasons. And thankfully I was able to hook it up. Otherwise we'd have no sound effect of Dum Dum of the Week. But we actually have two Dum Dums of the Week, and Larry actually makes a suggestion. Can we get a Dum Dum of the Year? The entire Raiders organization. Well, now that he mentions the Raiders, that actually is a perfect segue to go into the first Dum Dum of the Week. So, as I have mentioned before on this show, if you find some way to say anything negative or derogatory to any of my iSports Radio teammates, you are getting Dum Dum of the Week. I don't care who you are getting Dum Dum of the Week, because you do not talk to my teammates down like that. And no matter who my teammates are, if I find something negative or derogatory, or you said something, you're getting called out. And depending on how bad it is, you are going to get it. You're probably going to get either the full Dum Dum of the Week or anything of that sort. But the first Dum Dum of the Week, okay, so as Cale Henderson pops in the chat room, he says, Raiders organization is a bottom-feeding franchise. They're literally no different than the Browns right now, except the shield and the silver black. Franchise is dysfunctional. And there was actually a meme on Twitter that said, even the Raiders logo doesn't want to see the Raiders play football. One eye has an eye patch over his eye, and then the other has his eye closed, which I think is funny. But for the first Dum Dum of the Week, okay, serious time. There was one or a few Raiders fans that were basically calling out my boy Cale Henderson, or basically saying negative things or mean things to my boy Cale Henderson. First of all, Cale Henderson is a smart and wise Raiders fan. And this man speaks truth on his show, Sin City Sports. Please check out Sin City Sports every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Cale does an outstanding job breaking down all things Las Vegas sports, and he does an excellent job breaking down Raiders! Anyway, but I'm not going to give out who this Raiders fan and his Twitter. I'm just going to say this Raiders fan said some very derogatory things to my boy Cale. And it's like, first of all, why are you spending your negativity on just chewing out Cale for actually being right? He is just making a good point. And Cale is not he's not a stan. He is a true Raider fan who speaks truth. And the fact that this guy was calling him names, and I can't say these names on air, but it just really just frustrated me. It's like, why can't we just all get along? And it's like, I understand people will never agree with people's statements, and if that were the case, then the world would be a dull and boring place, in my opinion. But it's like, the fact that you had to go stoop down low, call him names is just really sickening. And I basically say this all the time. Like I said, if you call any of my iSports Radio teammates any names, or if I find out you called anyone a name, or you basically said something derogatory, whether you tell them to go to bed or you just hurl insults at them, you are going to be Dum Dum of the Week. I don't care who you are. So, to this Raiders fan, this dude just had it's either this dude just had a extremely bad day, or this dude just really had a bone to pick with Cale Henderson. But I'm just so disappointed in how he basically just was just chewing out Cale, and how he just threw insults at him left to right. Cale also said, dude actually said, oh my goodness. Yeah, he said something extremely dumb, and I guess I'll just say this right now. He said, dude, abortion should be legal because of my stance with Derek Carr and the Raiders. Sad. And yeah, I know I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's like, yeah, you really had to bring that into the conversation. And that's just perfect reason to give this man Dum Dum of the Week. So I'm not going to give out the name of this Raiders fan or his Twitter handle, but to this Raiders fan who basically called Cale names and made that stupid claim, who basically brought that into a sports conversation when he was just talking about how Derek Carr and the Raiders and how they're just falling apart. You are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award, and you might, matter of fact, you're getting the whole sound effect twice. Talk to them, my G. Talk to them.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Wait. Talk to them one more time.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah, and I know not all Raiders fans are bad, but it's sad, and I'm sorry to Kale that he had to basically put up with that, and he had that in his mentions. That's not cool at all. It's one thing to basically have a disagreement, but to call people names and just hurl insults at them, it really is heartbreaking. So, and I guess I'll stay and that's just the first Dum Dum of the week. So the second Dum Dum of the week is basically, well, this one I actually was going to give out last week, but unfortunately it slipped my mind. So this Dum Dum of the week actually goes back all the way to last week. So a lot of fans are very passionate about their team. People really want to go to every game and just be the super fan of certain teams. However, some people like to take it too far. And I actually know Larry B. Unfortunately, the Aztecs coaching staff isn't going to be Dum Dum of the week, but there is a fan that I think did some of the worst thing I've ever seen, and this one actually goes all the way to Kansas City. So the Kansas City Chiefs have some diehard fans, and I say the word diehard as in they're extremely diehard. Some of them are chill though. I'm friends with some Chiefs fans, and not all Chiefs fans are not overly diehard, but there is one fan in particular that goes above and beyond. So this fan, however, happens to be Chiefsaholic. So Chiefsaholic, at first I thought he was a really cool guy. This dude dresses up in a wolf costume, and he basically goes to all Chiefs games. And I thought he was a pretty cool guy. He even posed with a diehard Chargers fan. He even said the Chargers get a lot of heat just because everyone likes to use the whole they don't have any fans joke, but he posed with one of the Chargers fans saying that this dude is a diehard Chargers fan and he deserves a lot of credit for staying loyal. However, Chiefsaholic did something, and this is something I did not think that this would happen. So apparently the Chiefsaholic, the dude with the wolf costume, he apparently went missing on Twitter. He's a social media superstar. But apparently he went missing, and everyone in Chiefs Kingdom was so worried, and everyone was thinking, okay, something bad might have happened with Chiefsaholic. But then, eventually, I think one person in Chiefs Kingdom managed to basically get involved, probably got the police involved, and then they eventually found out what happened with Chiefsaholic. I'm not going to use his real name, but apparently Chiefsaholic had robbed... this was on Friday. This was 2 Fridays ago, and apparently Chiefsaholic robbed a bank in Oklahoma to get money to go to the up-and-coming Chiefs game against the Houston Texans. Okay, I understand the loyalty of wanting to go to every Chiefs game, but that's a little extreme. That's a little extreme to just rob a bank with your wolf costume. With the wolf costume and basically just ask for money and say, put the money in the bag. And what was worse is that he kept, I think he was yelling, "Let's go Chiefs!" So, unfortunately, Chiefsaholic is sadly in the slammer, and I think his bail is $200,000. So, it sucks that someone had to go this far and this far just to get locked up. I understand. This is why I'm not a diehard fan. I will never become a diehard fan. I'm not going to deck myself out in blue, baby blue and gold and dedicate my entire room to all things Chargers or try to go to every Chargers game. This is why I won't be a diehard fan, because if I become a diehard fan, I'm going to try to go to every possible game I can, which I just can't. It's just too much money, and I don't have the transportation for it. So for Chiefsaholic, I hope, part of me hopes that he's able to like right the ship very well. I'm hoping he's able to like, once he gets out of jail, he's able to like turn his life around. But this dude really messed up everything. And this isn't the first time Chiefs fans have had someone get into big time trouble. I'm not going to go over everything that Chiefs fans got in trouble for. And honestly, there are cool Chiefs fans. Chiefs fans are extremely cool once you get to know them and once you're not in conflicts with them. But for Chiefsaholic to basically be robbing a bank with a wolf costume on and eventually just ruining his entire career as a Chiefs fan, you are sadly this week's Dumb Dumb of the Week Award recipient numero dos.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all for the Dumb Dumb of the Week. And you know what? I guess I've had a lot of Dumb Dumbs of the Week, and I don't know who to give out Dumb Dumb of the Year to. I probably should have been a little bit more prepared in terms of who should get Dumb Dumb of the Year. But there have been memorable moments. There's Emmanuel Acho for what he said about Justin Herbert being a social media quarterback. There's Skip Bayless for basically what he said about Shannon Sharp and all of the other stupid things he says. I guess there's the Raiders and Mark Davis. Who else would be a possible candidate? There's San Diego State football, though they at least made a bowl game. And Henry Ruggs, I gave him Dumb Dumb of the Week too, even though I didn't really use the sound effect. But overall, there was a lot of dumb things that happened back in 2022, and I'm just going to say it right now. Y'all better be careful, because I am watching, and if you do something that I think is dumb, well, actually, no, I have the perfect Dumb Dumb of the Year. The Dumb Dumb of the Year should definitely go to the Dodgers manager, Dave Roberts, because he guaranteed a World Series championship for the Dodgers. And what happened? The Dodgers wound up losing in not the wild card round, but the divisional round to the San Diego Padres. So Dave Roberts, the man that promised Dodger fans a World Series championship, but eventually got lost to baby brother in the division, being the San Diego Padres, you are the unofficial, unless someone can actually one-up this, you are the first official Dumb Dumb of the Year. Talk to him.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And I'm glad Larry is on point with my choice of Dave Roberts. But that's basically it for Dumb Dumb of the Year and Dumb Dumb of the Week. Hopefully I keep track of all these Dumb Dumbs of the week, and then I'll have a final tally. And then next year I'll have a final tally of who should be who should be the true Dumb Dumb of the Year. But before I sign on off, we got to go over some of the most memorable sports moments that happened in Southern California. So we'll start off with the Los Angeles Rams winning the Super Bowl. Boy, howdy, that was fun seeing the Rams win the Super Bowl. I know most people were against seeing the Rams win the Super Bowl just because they basically went all in with the picks, and then they signed Von Miller or traded for Von Miller, and then they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. and all that sort of thing, and everyone was not too thrilled with seeing the Rams win the Super Bowl back in Super Bowl 56. However, look at what all these super teams have done, and look at what all these other teams in college football have done. Basically, they've had to build their team to make it the best they can be. And I don't know if this would have happened, but maybe I don't know if the Rams would have been able to beat Green Bay at Green Bay, but we'll never know because the Niners decided to give the Rams a home game in the NFC Championship, which the Rams were able to exorcise their demons against the Niners. So overall, that was definitely a great memory in terms of Southern California sports. Also, we have to go with LAFC, which won their first ever MLS Cup. Now, again, LAFC was kind of the same little thing of of the Rams. They basically had a lot of key pieces signed with them and eventually go to their squad. And LAFC was this gigantic mega super team who basically, if they didn't win, then they would have never heard the end of it from opposing fans, especially Galaxy fans, and all sorts of MLS critics. But for LAFC, them winning their first ever MLS Cup was definitely a great memory. We also got to go with some of the collegiate sports. USC women's water polo, as well as USC beach volleyball winning national championships was awesome. USC beach volleyball winning their national championship was also another amazing feat, considering it was their second of a back-to-back. And now they have the most NCAA championships. Well, actually, no, tied for the most NCAA championships. Or no, actually they do. Because they just surpassed UCLA. So that was a good little memory for USC beach volleyball. And this is going to sound redundant. Yes, they had a lot of fifth-year players and 20-some-year-olds, but that's just how COVID worked. And it eventually worked out for everything USC women or USC beach volleyball and all those up-and-coming beach volleyball players that hopefully want to go into the AVP and do their thing. So that's another memorable moment for Southern California sports. Also, we have the rise of fame to USC. So, obviously, Lincoln Riley getting hired happened in 2021 and not 2022. But Lincoln Riley turning around USC football was quite amazing, as you saw the Lincoln Riley effect. USC eventually went to the Pac-12 championship where they fell short to Utah. But the fact that USC had that amazing turnaround from Clay Helton to like the interim coach, well, from Clay Helton to the interim coach, all the way over to to Lincoln Riley, just goes to show that USC football is back. And Caleb Williams winning the Heisman was also a great moment right there. So the fact that USC football is back in terms of the national stage is amazing. Caleb Williams should be back. And USC should be having a bright future just because they've got a lot of good recruits coming in. And hopefully they can get some more by the time next year rolls around. And hopefully they can get some key pieces from the transfer portal. Yes, people are going to say, oh my God, USC is basically buying their way to fame. Well, so what? I mean, look at what everyone else is doing. Look what Bama did, or UCLA did, or all these other college sports teams that did. So USC rising back from the dead in terms of football was another memorable moment in Southern California sports. We also had University of San Diego's women's volleyball team advancing to their first ever Final Four. Yes, they eventually lost to the national champion Texas, but man, that was such a phenomenal year. They'd won 28 straight games in a row. Their head coach got the National Coach of the Year. They beat Stanford in the regional final, which was the national quarterfinals. They ran the table in their conference despite getting a little bit of a scare from LMU. And overall, and they proved to the so-called experts that San Diego was indeed deserving of the 4 seed and was indeed deserving of hosting a regional final and not Stanford. Not to try to take anything away from Stanford, but San Diego really proved themselves. And keep in mind, they are not a Power 5 school. They were not just the best non-Power 5 school in NCAA women's volleyball history, but they were one of the best teams this year, and their consistency really showed. And yes, they had transfers as well, but again, look at what Texas did in terms of women's volleyball. I know this basically is me sounding like a broken record, but it's true. Like, it really is true. And then we also have to give a big ups to the Lake Elsinore Storm, who also won their championship in their league, which was indeed awesome. I definitely can't forget about them. And I loved how I was able to make all the storm jokes and all the weather jokes and whatnot. So I definitely give my props to Lake Elsinore for them winning a championship. And it made me happy just because the fact that they won a championship and brought glory to SoCal, and they really made Southern California super duper proud. And they could not have done an outstanding job throughout the entire season, let alone the postseason. So great job to the Lake Elsinore Storm. I'm very happy for y'all. No, I'm not going to cry, don't worry. And then I guess another good moment from 2022 in the Southern California sports world was the San Diego Padres beating the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers fans, you might want to cover your ears for this one, but the San Diego Padres managed to beat the Padres managed to beat the Dodgers in the NLDS, and they made it all the way back to the NLCS, which most people weren't even giving the Padres a chance. I was giving them a slight chance, especially with all that happened with Fernando Tatis Jr. and all the injuries that had piled up and whatnot. And some were even saying that the Padres weren't even going to make it. Fortunately for the Padres, they did make it to the NLCS, where they eventually fell to the 6-seed Philadelphia Phillies, which eventually fell to the Houston Astros. But regardless, it was a phenomenal season for the San Diego Padres and quite the punch in the face for the Dodgers. So hopefully the Padres will be back, but it might take some time with Fernando Tatis Jr. working his way back into the lineup. And I want to say that's pretty much it for them. Okay, one more thing. I guess this is a late edition. Two late editions. UCLA hopefully going to get their 10-win season by the time they beat Pitt on Friday. If they don't, then I'll eat my crow when it comes to Pitt. But one more memorable moment is the Chargers making the playoffs under Brandon Staley. It's their first playoff appearance since 2018. It's been a while since we've seen the Chargers in the postseason, but Justin Herbert will get his chance to play in the playoffs, and Brandon Staley was able to keep the team together despite all the injuries and all the distractions and all the negativity, probably from me. But Chargers making the playoffs is also a good memory in 2022. They're the only SoCal team advancing to the playoffs just because the poor Rams sadly had a Super Bowl hangover. A nasty Super Bowl hangover at that, just because now they've tied the Denver Broncos for most losses post-Super Bowl win. So, ouch, oh Rama. And that is pretty much going to do it for all of the memorable Southern California sports memories. The good ones, at least. Obviously, we had Vince Scully passing away and some of the other legends passing away, but all in all, and then obviously the downfall of the Lakers and whatnot, but I'm just focused on the positive. With that said, that is basically going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last time in 2022, it is time to get on out of here. As I gotta get dressed because first of all, I've got some business to attend to, and second of all, I gotta get dressed to meet some friends. Ya dig? Thank you everyone for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in and for everyone's support. If you are listening live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, on a train, in a plane, here or there, anywhere, with green eggs and ham, with Sam I Am, I really do appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Larry B, Cale Henderson, Adam Carnick, Mike Pat for popping in the chat room. I really do appreciate everyone for popping in the chat room, and I appreciate everyone's support for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Next year, I'll try to get the SoCal Supreme Sports Show up and popping more often than not. We shall see. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the year. Have a great New Year altogether. Merry belated Christmas. Merry belated Kwanzaa. Merry belated Hanukkah. Merry belated holidays to everybody. I should be back next week for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show at my regular time, but time will tell. No pun intended. But until then, you all have yourself a great New Year. Happy New Year in advance to everybody. I will see you all next year for the first ever 2023 episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Until then, take care, be safe, don't be dumped over the week, and I will see you all next year. Have a great weekend. Remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!